Good morning. Welcome to Monday morning. I am Tanny Reed Walker, counselor with FCSS in Southern Alberta, Canada. I am so grateful you are here, whether you are live or in the replay. Thanks, Prisma, for letting me know you can hear me and see me, and thank you for participating. I have been a counselor with FCSS for well over a decade now, and have been working with people who have been grieving and mourning for much longer. I have been doing this series, the Monday morning series, for several months now. There's lots and lots of information in the past posted on YouTube. FCSS 2020, I believe, is our YouTube channel, and on many of our Facebook pages. If you have any questions now or in the future, please let me know. I would appreciate hearing from you. We are nearing the end of my Monday mornings. I feel like there's a lot of content, and unless I get some new ideas or some questions, I think it'll be good for now. But I have appreciated you being here all this time. As for today, we are continuing on with our little series about this adorable book. It is Loving from the Outside In and Mourning from the Inside Out. It is, of course, from Dr. Alan Wolfelt. He is fantastic. It's a wonderful little book. It has lots of question prompts for guided journaling. There's a lot of little quotes you can see. It's just really, really, really well done. And it's in kind of like a language and idea that isn't common, I find, in a lot of books about grief and mourning. The concepts that we talk about in this are not just for loss of relationship due to death. They can be loss of relationship through divorce, separation, moving, loss of friendships. Love and loss can happen in so many ways, and I really appreciate that about this book. Today's two chapters are being in orbit and presence. So we're just gonna jump right in and get started. If you have any comments or memories or thoughts or ideas that you ever wanted to share, please put in the comments. It looks like I can see them today, which is lovely, and I can talk about them on the video if you would like. Thanks, Prisma. She's putting on the link for this book. I can tell you that I don't think I do it justice when I'm working through it, but hopefully it piques your interest. So being in orbit. So when you love someone, it's like two planets being in orbit, like the Earth orbiting around the sun and the moon orbiting around the Earth. And so there's all of these things. So they're individual kind of entities, but they work off each other, and they just kind of they influence each other. And the first sentence in this is that Dr. Alan Wolfelt once heard someone say, "You don't fall in love, you orbit in love." So it's like I said, it's two planets with your own gravity and your own path, and you just come into universe with each other. And it's a beautiful synchronicity that happens. Because when you are in love with someone, it doesn't mean that you don't have your own ideas and interests and experiences and friendships and philosophies. But when you're in orbit with someone, you have common values, such as sense of humor, and like I said, common values and ideas about how you want to go about your life. And you choose to influence each other. You become kind of interconnected. Another thing he talks about is the yin yang symbol. So there's the black and the white, and inside each piece is a little bit of the other color. So it's kind of intermingled, yet a little bit separate. And then it creates a circle. And that's what love is. You kind of bring a piece of that person inside you. They become part of your heart, part of who you are. And so when someone passes away, you're like, what happened to that orbit? What do I do now? That physical orbiting is no longer here. And we're often taught that we should just disconnect from the person that we were in orbit with. And we're told to just put the past in the past and move on, like we should stop loving them. And that is not how it works. Remember the yin-yang symbol? There's a piece of you that will always live on inside you. That orbit still exists. It's just on a different plane. Continuing to love and continuing to mourn the loss of that physical presence of that person are not mutually exclusive. We integrate that physical loss into our lives while we create that courage to continue to love, even in the face of that loss. Sometimes a lot of grief is we have all this love inside us and we're used to pouring that out on somebody. We're used to being able to physically love someone, tell someone that we love them. And yet here we are, we continue to love and we're not quite sure how to do that. Part of that is acknowledging that loss, and part of it is realizing that they will never totally be lost. That person has become a fabric of our being. So perhaps as we continue to love that part of them that's inside of us, that means loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves and putting that extra kindness and care. Oh, I'm frozen. Oh, there we go. That kindness and care and compassion and feeling towards ourselves. That's a big concept. We can authentically mourn this loss even as we consciously value what we have taken in from this person that we continue to love. Because people that we love have influence on us. And that influence never goes away. I speak with a lot of people who think, what would blank say? What would blank tell me? What would this person that I cared about feel about this situation? And I think it keeps a lot of us actually alive. Because we know that the one that we love would want us to continue on. And that's part of the orbiting. We can't stop loving other people. As much as the society says, you need to move on, you need to put the past in the past, do we stop loving? My great grandma, who was probably one of the first significant people in my life that I recall passing away, I think she died like 25 years ago or 26 years ago, and I still love her. In fact, I bet I love her more now. I think that we have a relationship even more now. So I'm curious about her, and I think about her. That's a long time. I know people that have lost people way many more years, and they still have that love. That orbit just kind of changes. We give new form to it. It just gets all jumbled up, and then we figure it out again. And that's what mourning is. It's leaning into that. Realizing that as we mourn the loss of their physical presence, we're also loving them. and loving what they've given to us and cherishing that. It's hard work, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time because it's really big. And this conversation, talking about this and talking about love and the reorbiting, I guess, of the relationship, it's not denial, it's transformation. It's transforming you. How do you incorporate them, that love, those things that they gave you, the things that you created together into your new future? Creating your new paths and your new relationships and your new orbits, because they will influence it. They will influence it. And that's important because you're important. So orbiting is a different way to think about it. It's a different way to think about the relationships. But I think it's really powerful. And it changes and it shifts and it moves. And that's okay. And breathe. And take time for that. So if you're feeling like doing some journal prompts, or if you're feeling like asking yourself some questions, think, were you in orbit in your relationship? What does that mean to you? What does that conversation look like for you? How do we best honor those who go before us by making their contribution to our lives conscious? Live with those values in an on-purpose way and go on living until we die. How do we incorporate that? How do we look at the gift that has been left behind and lives within us? Have you been told that you need to put the past in the past? If so, what did that feel like for you? And take some time with that. Take some time to acknowledge what that felt like. And what do you think of the idea that someone precious that we have loved is never actually lost? Part of me rebels at that. And then part of me is comforted at that. So I wonder what that is for you. Oh, and there's a quote here from Tom Petty. You and I will meet again when we least expect it. Well, when we're least expecting it. One day in some far-off place, I will recognize your face. I won't say goodbye, my friend, for you and I will meet again. That's a great quote. I'll read another one. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away to the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same that it ever was. There is absolute, unbroken continuity. Why would I be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Henry Scott Holland. Out of sight doesn't mean out of mind. I think that's my favorite part ever. Let's talk about the next chapter. Presence. Life is now. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Eckhart Tolle. Life is right now. When we first begin to love someone, in those heady days of love, we delight in simply spending time with that person. Do you remember? It's like when a baby is born, brand new. and you just want to cuddle them, and it feels like that's all you want to do forever. You just want to be. When you meet your new love the first time, you just want to spend every minute with them. When you have a new friend and you're super excited because this person resonates with you and you just want to spend lots of time with them. Or if you have an amazing teacher who actually sees you and understands your gifts, you just want to spend time with them. You want to see their face, what their laugh sounds like. You notice what their hands look like. You notice how they move. You notice how they smell. You start to notice the things that they adore, the habits they have, the music they listen to, their favorite color. Everything is heightened. You just love them. And time is now when you're first in love. It gives you the time of presence. And it's temporary. Because after a while, as the love matures and you feel attached and secure, you go back to your daily habit of living in the past or the future. You go through your routines. You think about what's happened last week or what's going to happen. Sometimes you worry. Sometimes you think about next year. You don't spend that time in the present moment watching them being present in that love. Sometimes people think that the key to inner bliss is learning to always remember in the present. So we teach meditation. We focus on breathing. Reminds me to take a breath. We're trying to quiet those minds, our busy, busy minds that are constantly reflecting on the past and trying to anticipate the future. Another time that we get focused into present, whether we want to or not, is grief, early grief. The world suddenly stops. And it feels like you can't move. And if you do move, it's in slow motion. Sometimes you feel like you can't even get out of bed. It's so heavy. We have to listen to what our souls and bodies and hearts need. We have to stop and slow down and once again be present to the now. So during this time, remind yourself and remind yourself and remind yourself it's natural, it's okay to slow down and not do so much. And I also need to remind you that there are some people, many people, Megan Devine is one of my favorite, who know that early grief is much longer than a couple of weeks, a couple of months, sometimes longer than a year or 2 years. It all depends. Depends on so many things about who you are, what your relationship was. So be kind to yourself. In our culture that wants us to move forward, get over it, we need to remember, like I just said, it takes time to reorbit. It takes time to readjust, to figure out how to create that external orbit inside us with that person, and figure out how eventually other people and things start to orbit with us. Take your time. Be patient with yourself. This time forces you to be present. Try not to deny or distract yourself from your grief. That will delay and complicate it. But do take time to dose it. Take the time here and there, in between the spaces of living. Take that time. When you're learning to live with the present of your grief and loss, try to also remember to be present with the good in your life. Go for a walk and feel that sun on your face. Feel the breeze in your hair. This morning I went out and it's very cold. And I took a minute to see the new sun coming up, just sparkling off the frost. And that is good. Feel your muscles as they move through time and space. Be present with your own body. If you can, hug someone you love and pay close attention. How do they smell? Can you hear their heart? How does it feel holding them? Listen to your music. Listen to the words and the sound and how it feels. Be aware and be present. As you move through grief, you're going to learn, hopefully you learn, please learn, that faster is not better. Slow down. Slow down. You're worth it. Your love is worth it. I've mentioned before, if a skyscraper gets blown up, it takes some time to rebuild it. And sometimes even after it's rebuilt on the outside, there's still a lot of work going on the inside, so take that time. Often others encourage you to speed through your grief. It's out of their own sense of helplessness and discomfort with witnessing someone in pain. They do love you. They do care. That's why your pain is so uncomfortable for them. They just want to see you happy. Please don't be happy for them. I mean, you can be happy for them, but don't be happy yourself to please them. Your comfort is not for them. You will find your comfort in your own time. And it's hard. It can be hard when people you care about are like, you need to move on. You need to get over this. You need to. And you can remind them. And if you need to take time from them, just a little bit of space here and there, please do. Because even the most compassionate people don't always understand the role of pain and grief and the importance of allowing you to sit in that wound as you move towards hope and healing. Sometimes people want to mask it or help you find a new love, distract yourself. That often ends up very painful, even more painful. And it also does a disservice to the new person in your world. So take time, dose yourself, learn how to reorbit that person within you before you try to move on. This journey isn't about getting over your grief. It's helping you reconcile and integrate all that's changed. Walking through this with purpose and intention and with presence is the only way to recreate your new world, your new orbit. Take that time. Please honor yourself and understand that presence with your pain and presence with the small gifts of your world all work together. Some questions you can ask yourself, either by journaling or just ponder at your own pace, maybe as you're going for a walk, because it's so good to move your body. What do you remember about the sensation of being in moment with the person who died in the early days of your relationship? What do you remember about the sensation of being in moment with the person who died in the early days of your relationship? I had to say that again because my brain was like, what? So what was it like when you first fell in love? When you were first with them? What was that like? Who were they? What did you love? What did you marvel over? I remember with my little ones when they were born, just marveling over every part of them. I love their little feet and toes. I can tell you now, I wouldn't want anything to do with their feet or toes. But then I did. So what do you remember? How did your ability to live with the now, how did your ability to live in the now with this person change as your love matured? Well, I stopped focusing on their feet and I started focusing on who they are and laughing and having those experiences. And what does your grief feel like today? Is it different than yesterday? Is it different than however long ago? What does it feel like today? What are your body, mind, and your spirit telling you about the need to go slow right now? Listen to you. Our bodies talk to us. I hear about so many people in chronic pain who have been trying to push through the grief and the loss and all the pain. And grief and loss is sometimes the grief and loss of a dream or a hope. Oh, there's so many ways of having loss. But listen to your body. Listen to your body. When you're trying to run from it, your body will make sure that you stop. And there's so many ways for it to do that. And what about your mind? Is your mind chaotic? Are you forgetting things? Oh. And your spirit? Is it feeling down? Do you need to take the time? Which physical symptoms are you experiencing that might be serving as an invitation to go slow in your grief journey? Well, I think I already talked about that a bit. I wonder if anybody else has any comments about physical, spiritual, their mind. Just sometimes feel at the edge of tears. It's time to take time. I love to cook. It's one of my hobbies. And when I'm feeling grief, I don't even care to cook. I don't have time. I don't want to. I need to slow down. There's too much happening. Are some people giving you the message to speed up your grief? If so, why do you think this? Why do you think they're trying to force you or speed you up? Is there something they miss doing with you? Are you their support normally and suddenly they don't know how to cope without you being their support? I feel like that happens a lot. Were they your travel companion and suddenly you don't want to travel anymore? So they're like, you need to get over this so we can continue what we were doing. Did they work with you and suddenly the burden of work is more for them than it was before? So they would like you to hurry up and get better so things could go back to normal. Who are these people? And why do you think they're doing it? Sometimes knowing and understanding can help you be compassionate for them. And it can also help you give yourself permission to have space from them. And the final is, what happens when you sit still for 2 minutes and use your senses to be aware of all the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures around you right now? And after you've taken that time to use all of your senses, take 3 big breaths. 4 in, 6 to 8 out. Breathe in and out. One more time, because 3 is a magic number. Take that time. And let's read the last quote. You must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island opportunities and look towards another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this. Henry David Thoreau. I have a lot of people who talk to me about wanting to know what their future is going to be. And they talk about what the past was. And really, there is only now. I know today, it was a year ago, haha, that COVID was discovered in Canada. And none of us could have truly predicted what today would have looked like. There was a trillion, billion ways it could turn. And we don't know. So take a moment to just be here, to just be now, and reflect. And reflect and be present. Be present with the pain and any good that is around. Because you know what? You are worth it. And you are here. And your love is important. Thank you again. Please share these videos. If you're new to it, go back. Take a look at some of the things we've done. We did a series on children's grief. We've done a series on suicide grief. We've done a series on carried grief. There's been so much. And if you have any questions or insights or suggestions for me, please, please, please let me know. And just know that I appreciate you. I appreciate that this is hard. And I appreciate that you're taking the time to honor yourself and your love and all the feelings. Because all of the feelings are valid, they're all real, and they all need to be felt. So until next Monday, I wish you well.